All right, number 6, we want to identify the correct graph and the x and y intercepts. With this one, there's a number of different things you can do and a number of different things that once you know them, it will help you get to the right conclusion. So I'm going to show you by hand and with technology how to do this one. One of the first things you want to know is just being familiar with the parent function, knowing that x squared will give you a parabola, and the fact that this is positive, that parabola is going to be opening upward. Okay, so these first two look good. There's a fourth option, but this one is going downward. Okay, so you can knock out these two in the middle, and we're just looking at these two. Now, other than that, if you plug a 0 for all the x's, everything would cancel out, and you would just have -5. So we know our y-intercept is -5, and you can see that both these graphs cross at -5. If I were to do this by hand, I would just factor it and find the x-intercepts. So this is the way I would do it by hand. I'm just going to say y equal instead of g of x. And then I would factor it, I should really put this as a 0 because we do 0 equal. 1 times -5, or just 1 times 5 is 5, and the factors of 5 are 1 and 5. We want to subtract to get 4, and they will subtract and give you 4. So I'll put an x in the front of both, that's my variable, and then I will put 1 at the back and 5 at the back. The order does not matter. Once we do that, going left to right, the first sign is your bigger number out of the 1 and 5. And then the second sign is minus, which tells me that these two are going to be different. Positive means the same, negative means different. So if they're different, this has to be a plus. And then from there, you can get x equals -1 and x equals 5. So these will be your two x-intercepts. So doing factoring, you can find that this graph will be correct. You can also graph this function in the calculator and look at the table or actually compute them. So I'm going to show you both those methods as well. Go to y equal. We're just going to type in this equation. X next to the alpha key, x squared, catty corner from 7, and then minus 4x, and then minus 5. You can do second table, and you can see when x is 0 what y value is. That's the y-intercept. And then if you scroll up and down the table, you can see when the y is 0. So we got -1 0, and we have 5 0. You can get those x-intercepts from the table. You can also just hit graph, and you can see what the graph looks like. Okay, and that's the only one that's going to match. This one, see how that line is going right next to the x-intercept or the y-axis, and that one is not. It's on the other image. And then if you wanted to find your x-intercepts and they were not whole numbers, so notice if you're doing it with the table, it's only showing you whole numbers unless you know how to change the graph and find decimals. So if it's not showing you whole numbers, or if your x-intercept happen to be like a fraction like 1.5 or a decimal point, you know, something that's not a whole number, then there's one more method. So you go to y equal, and then you just need to put a 0 in here because that's what we do when we find the x-intercept. We let y equal 0. So I'm going to graph again, and what's happening is that y equals 0 is this x-axis. So there's two equations here, but you can't see it. Actually, if I go and change the way it's graphed, you will see it. Let me just change this line. I'm going to hit enter like 4 times. There we go. And then if I graph it, it's just going to trace it. It's going to show you that it's tracing the x-axis. So that line, y equals 0, is here. So what we're going to do is find the intersection. So this is a line, and it's crossing this line, and I want the calculator to tell me where they are crossing. So to do that, you're going to hit second and then the trace button for calculate in the blue. And then we're going to go to option number 5, intersect. So I'm just going to go down here and hit 5. Now, your calculator may do one of two different things. If you have the phone app, it probably asks you left bound, but if you have this computer, it's asking you first curve. So let me just show you either way. If it says left bound, just make sure you arrow your cursor somewhere on the left side. And mine is saying first curve, showing me the first equation, and it's on this line, which is exactly what I want. I'm going to hit enter. So once you go to the left of where you believe that intercept to be, you hit enter. And then it says second curve. Now notice my second line is the only other graph I have, and it's just staying on the x-axis. However, on the phone app, it might say right bound, so you want to arrow to the right side. So you want 1 point on the left, 1 point on the right, and you're just trapping that x-intercept. You're telling the calculator, I want you to focus on this one. Because there are two, and it does not know which one you want. Maybe you only want one of them, but you got to find them one at a time. So left bound, right bound, or first curve, second curve, you just hit enter once you get to the spot you need to be, and then it says guess. You don't have to guess, you can just hit enter. And then we get -1, 0. And then if I do that again, second, trace, and then option number 5 for intersect, then I want to go over here and find this one. So this time I'm going to scroll to this side and then hit enter close to that one, second curve, hit enter, and then guess, just hit enter a third time, and then it shows you 5, 0. So you can do it by hand by factoring and find those points. You can do it with a graphing calculator by graphing it and seeing the graph. You can look at the table and find those intercepts, and you can also compute it by doing second calculate. But we get this third option in this case. Okay, enter incomplete. Okay, I got to type the x-intercepts down here. It was -1, 0, and 5, 0, and then the y-intercept was 0, -5. Okay, and we get that just by plugging everything to be a 0, and then you just end up with -5. All right, so now that we've done it at least once with the calculator, you can do it either way. This is 1, 2, 3 x's. Okay, this is positive x, negative x. So based on just counting those, we're going to have number 6. Okay, we're going to have a -x cubed. Okay, so let's talk about the odd degree. Odd degree, if it's positive, we'll do this. The right goes up, left goes down. If it is negative, it flip-flops. The left goes up and the right goes down. Okay, so that's what we're looking at, a negative. And it might have more of a hump in between, but the end behavior is going to look like this. All right, this one is just really simple to do by hand, so I'll probably focus on that. But again, you can graph it and pop it in just like that. I know my graph is going to look like this shape, so this one is okay. It could do more of humps in between, so this one is possible because of the endpoints. These two are not, so I have a 50-50 shot right here. From here, I'm just going to do the x-intercepts by hand. It's already factored for us, so all we have to do is just set each of those terms equal to 0. So let's say if I do x minus 2 equals 0, and I add 2 to both sides, I get x equals a positive 2. And then with the next one, I have x plus 2. And if I subtract 2 this time, I get x equals -2. So let's see if I can figure it out from this point. But I will have to find all the x-intercepts and the y-intercepts, so I'm going to have to go ahead and do everything. But just from this point, let me see if I can figure out the graph. So x-intercept of 2 and negative 2. This one does not even look like it has one over at negative side. So it's going to be this graph here. And then we'll go ahead and find the last x-intercept. You have 4 minus x equals 0. And I need x to be positive, so I can just add the x over. And I have x equals 4. So these will be my x-intercepts. And then if you take that whole expression, and instead of g of x, I'm just going to say y equals. And to find the y-intercept, you plug a 0 for x. So I have a 0 minus 2. And then I have a 0 plus 2. And then 4 minus 0. And we're going to just multiply all of these. So I got a negative 2 times a positive 2. And then times 4. So that's going to give us a negative 16. So our y-intercept is going to be 0, negative 16. And then you could also kind of count that if you were to see what the lines are counting by, which looks like they're counted by 2s, but you can get that ordered pair. So this is our correct graph, and then our x-intercepts are 2, 0, negative 2, 0, and 4, 0. Y-intercept 0, 16, 0, negative 16.